Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 198 of Arsenal Pass. Hayden Dale here with no Pankaj Bhojwani this week as Pankaj is travelling. And instead, I will have a special guest joining me very soon. But before we get into all that, I do want to give a few updates and pieces of news that are happening before we get into the main topic of the pod with our guest this week. Over the next 2 weeks, you're going to see a bit of a split from me and Pankaj as we're both travelling and not able to record in the same places at the same time. And we didn't want to pre-record pods because there's a lot happening with the Hunted release. We're coming into the Calling Memphis this coming weekend. Then we're straight into Road to National season. So lots happening, lots of fresh things to talk about. So instead of pre-recording and maybe not being as up-to-date about things we want to speak about, we're bringing in guests onto the pod for the next 2 weeks, which we're both super excited about. My guest this week is going to be the one, the only Nick Butcher, recent calling winner, now one of the most winningest players in all of Flesh and Blood at this point, with multiple tier 3 and above wins, 9 top 8s at tier 3, so calling and above is just an insane record, up there with some of the big hitters that you'd be familiar with. So really excited to have Nick on to talk about all things Classic Constructed with the Hunted and its impact, decks to look out for, what we expect for the Calling Memphis this weekend, the cards that we're thinking about, the decks that we're thinking about as we test. We're both heading off to the Calling Christchurch in a couple of weeks, so all that coming up in the main topic of the pod. First things first though, few news items to cover. We already spoke about the callings coming up. Road to Nationals kicks off very, very soon as well, so if you're out there playing Road to Nationals, best of luck. We're going to be speaking on the next few weeks of the pod, all things Classic Constructed to get you ready for Road to National season. But bit of an update on the pod. We have a lot of additional, or the channel, I guess, a lot of additional content coming your way in 2025, and that's going to include more focus around Classic Constructed, around deck techs, around gameplay. So lots happening in February. You're going to see gameplay, which is very exciting. You're going to see some deck techs. You're going to see some other content, which at this point we can't speak too much about, but we're going to see other stuff coming. That is main feed here on YouTube, as well as and Spotify for YouTube, I guess, for the content. Of course, the pod will always be available on Spotify, and then we also do have some additional Patreon content, including the return of our fleshed out deck guides and all things, including, of course, the weekly pod is still up there. But we do have some other changes to our Arsenal Pass Patreon as we head into 2025, and all things sort of, I guess, refreshing. And as Pankaj has joined us, which we're, of course, been super privileged to have Pankaj join Arsenal Pass, we went away, we had a little bit of a strategy session and talked about the things we want to do this year when it comes to Flesh and Blood content creation. So that's all going to be coming your way. So keep an eye out for changes to Patreon, but just letting you know that will be happening from February. A little bit of tier adjustment plus more additional content effectively is how we're structuring it. So that's exciting. We've also got some merch coming your way as well if you're interested in that sort of thing. So anyway, check all that out. Last thing I did want to talk about before we get into things is, of course, the Hunted is out this week. Did you play pre-releases this weekend? Please let us know. How did you find them? How are you finding this limited format? I've been super excited to get involved and be looking forward to playing some Hunted, particularly when it comes to Classic Constructed, which I have been spending some time doing. So, yes. Anyway, as I say, you'll see me this week. You'll see Pankaj next week. We'll be reunited together the following week post the Calling Christchurch and heading into the thick of Road to National season as we'll continue to break down this Classic Constructed format. And as it updates, we think it's going to be a fast-moving season. So I think definitely a lot to watch out for. With all that said, I want to bring on my guest and get straight into things with the Commander Cookout with Nick, as well as a first look at the Hunted Classic Constructed meta.
You're listening to Arsenal Pass, a Flesh and Blood podcast for players by players, and all about strategy, leveling up, and the latest news in the world of Wraith. Welcome to Arsenal Pass.
And I now have the absolute pleasure of bringing on to Arsenal Pass for a second time now. Well, second time on the pod, third time, fourth, fifth time in totality, because you have done some video series with me in the past. Mr. Nick Butcher, the one and only, welcome back to the pod.
Usually I'm listening too, but now I'm the one you're listening to, so here we are.
You're listening to Nick Butcher. What have you been up to? What's been happening?
Just chilling. Uni going back soon, so getting prepared for that, but been a good break. Ready to do some actual gameplay and play fab, whereas instead it was brainless, do nothing. So happy for some structure.
You say that, but so a lot of people, I guess, who travel for events, have had a lot of downtime since Worlds, right? There's been a handful of events, Battle Hardens in the US and Europe, of course. Over this side of the world, there's been, I think, 2 Battle Hardens and a calling. But you traveled to that calling and you won that calling. So it's not like you've been exactly quiet. You've been busy. For those that may not be fully aware, Kuala Lumpur, you took down very recently on Zen. So, you've been playing a little bit.
Yeah, true. But that was a while ago now.
So, 2 months ago almost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, time flies. Yep. Obviously, you're going to be heading to Christchurch as well, so going to get some hunted gameplay. And I guess this week in Flesh and Blood, what have you been up to in the world of Flesh and Blood? You've been playing, you've been grinding, you've been testing.
Yeah, I've just been playing games here and there. Sometimes you lose motivation, sometimes you have motivation. But I did go to a pre-release, so I got my look at this. Oh. My crazy or what? Look at that. That's deserved right there. That was a nice pre-release I went to. Don't talk about my record, but
for our audio,
I was the real winner.
For our audio listeners, I believe that is a Command and Conquer expansion slot, Command and Conquer, and is that a
in foil?
Yeah, is that do they all in foil, the expansion slot Command and Conquers?
I don't know.
And Arachne Marionette full art?
It's Funnel Web.
Oh, it's Funnel Web. Oh, it's the
Funnel Web. Yeah, the marble. Yeah.
Nice.
Before I picked it up just now, I didn't know that it actually had 2 sides, so I thought it was just the side that actually has the text.
Yeah, nice. So you won pre-release weekend. You've done better than me. I actually didn't get to. This is the first time I haven't played a pre-release for a Flesh and Blood event. I am off on Wednesday for travel to. We're going back for my wedding, so I just had too much on this weekend. I was pretty gutted not to play a pre-release this time. It's literally the first time, so I have not yet played. Well, I have played a little bit of Limited, I guess, just messing around, but I've not actually played a proper game of Limited yet with this new set. So,
you have good reason. I have good reason.
Yeah. Just quickly, always honest on the show, Nick Butcher. What do you think of this sealed format? At least, is it LSS have said this draft format they're feeling pretty good about. Sealed, they generally don't say a lot about because it's not a focus for them. But I have noticed that Sealed has been, since Bright Lights, Heavy Hitters. I really liked Heavy Hitters. I thought it was decent. I thought it's been better, right? What did you think of the Sealed format?
I just don't like Sealed,
okay,
I guess. maybe they think it's a good format. I am not a fan, honestly. In this set, I'd just be like, oh, you can just play Arachne and just block forever and then just get random 0-for-4s in there. And that seems pretty good because eventually your opponent will run out of starter. And if they have the nuts, you were going to lose anyway. So whatever. That's just how Sealed seems to go. And bombs are too bomby. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a Sealed fan, but maybe there's no more Sealed formats outside of a world premiere. So we don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, hard to know. It seems like that's how they're using the Sealed format from now on, right? But of course, draft for PTLA. So you will be on the grind for draft very, very soon.
Yeah. Probably after Kobe or something, start the grind for PT.
So you're heading out to the calling in Japan as well?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, nice. Cool. Very good. This format looks interesting. We're going to talk about all things Classic Constructed with the Hunted on this podcast. First of all, though, I want to get into the Command and Cookout. And if you do want to get your Command and Cookout questions in, you can do so. Email them to us at arsenalpassfab@gmail.com. You can drop them to us in the YouTube comments below. Let us know it's a Command and Cookout question. You can tweet at us, you can email us, you can write us a note, you can even give us a verbal note, which someone did to Pankaj a couple of weeks ago. I prefer it written down so we don't forget it, but whatever floats your boat. If you're a patron, you can drop in the Discord. The question this week, though, Nick, comes from me. This question is from me, and it's for you.
To say that's a bit selfish, if I'm going to be honest. You advertise this, and then it's all you. It's all about you. What is this?
Yeah, well, you know me. I had insider information that you were coming on the pod, so I was leveraging it.
You're right.
My question for you is this. Nick, you are now for those that may not be aware, one of the winningest players in Flesh and Blood with equal third, tier 3 and above, top 8s at 9 top 8s. You're tied third for wins at 3. You have a PT16, top 16 under your belt now, and you are chasing, as I well know, that tier 4, top 8 and a win at the Pro Tour level. So my question is, what keeps giving you the motivation to push and improve yourself as a player to achieve your goals and stay at the elite end of this game we play, Flesh and Blood?
Besides the mental illness factor, I'd say something like, so for people at home who are like, oh yeah, I want to be an elite player, in this game, there's probably like 5 elite players, and they're all the people who have won 3 or more major events. And the odds of that are just so unlikely because realistically speaking, no one won an event without getting lucky. I know people want to be like, oh, it's such a skill expressive game, but people know that there's just luck involved no matter what. So you just have to be as best prepared as possible. So like the hunger of just keeping that up and like having a chip on your shoulder. I think the people that are like the best at whatever they do. So say like you look at tennis, because that's what's going on in Australia at the moment. Novak Djokovic, he's a 20-time Grand Slam winner.
Yeah.
Like, and he still wants more because like, it's always about the next challenge. It's always about the next win. What happens before didn't matter. It's what happens now. You want to cement yourself as like one of the best, but what motivates you is yourself and your own drive. And if you can accomplish that, then it's anything's possible. Obviously success is limited, so like don't be discouraged or anything like that. And also it's a lot of volume. Like you look at some like people who like are globetrotters and they don't win every event, right? They've won pretty few events because that's just how it goes, because success is limited.
Yeah. You look at this. I look at this list, right? The company that you keep these days, Mr. Butcher. Michael Hamilton, 6 wins. Pablo Pinto 4. Gordon Coe. Shout out to Gordon. Gordy Fab. 3 wins. Matt Rogers, our friend, 3 wins. Michael Feng, 3 wins. Yourself, 3 wins. You know, there's a lot of events played in that as well, right? And it's a lot of, we have 4 year, we're coming on the 4th year now of the I guess the World Tour as it's now known for Flesh and Blood, including calling circuit. But you go back 5 years ago, we had our first callings at the end of 2019. So there's been a lot of, a majority of these players have played since that time, right? So, like you say, there's a lot of volume, but also, and you do say there's luck involved. Of course, there's in this game, there will always be variance, there will always be luck, right? But if you aren't prepared to understand when you get the opportunities to make the play yourself, to have the impact yourself, if you don't make the right play at the right time, you won't win these events.
Yeah, for sure. And like there's a lot of preparation that goes into like what happens before the event as well, like your deck selection, like doing what's best for you. Like I remember Kuala Lumpur, everyone was like, even in my testing circle, like one mauling key, are you like some kind of idiot? Why would you not play? That one's crazy. And it's like, I just hate this card. It's another normal summon that doesn't really impact the game. Oh, I use weird verbiage sometimes, just relative to
Yu-Gi-Oh player.
Yeah. So like if you get clumped with this and then afterwards, people like, this guy's mental, one mauling key. Like it's just, people like treat things differently. I think the people at the top level, I think maybe you'd understand as well. It's like, it feels like a different game. It feels like a different game where like interaction is so incredibly important. Making the right lines is so important because like a lot of people just like value math because that's how it goes. But I think at the top player that's why Assassin's very popular at the top, because there's so much interaction involved with that, and holding your opponent down and getting that agency is super important rather than at the, casual RTN people like enjoying doing their thing. And that is like, that's why they hate Assassin, because it's like, oh, I wanted to do my big play. It's not fair that I got leave no witnesses off Codex. I hate this.
Decision points.
That's
right?
all. That's all you get when you play at top tables. It's so lame.
It's decision points. It's decision points, right? And that is, I have this. I'm sure. In fact, I know you share this philosophy, right? Like the longer a game of Flesh and Blood goes, like the longer you do have to imprint your view, right? Your hand on the game, right? You get more opportunities to make plays, and honestly, for your opponent to make incorrect decisions. And that is just true. If you think that you are one of the best players, if there's 2 decks that are equal in maybe their position in the metagame, if you think you are one of the best players, you should probably play the deck that has either more decision points for your opponent to interact with and more opportunities for them to mess up, or more opportunities for you to take the 5% or above the 55 that the other deck is holding potentially.
For sure. That's why I hate Aurora. It is so linear, and I don't even want to get into how much I just dislike that playing that deck. I know it's very popular, and I don't gripe anyone for playing it. It's some people's cup of tea. It's just not mine.
Yeah. And honestly, one thing I want to just just wrap this up. I think one of the things that I have taken from you, Nick, is someone that I've tested with, played with, spent a lot of time talking about the game of Flesh and Blood with over the years, is that you are someone who will hold, you find the things that not only you enjoy, but that you think are good and that you think you can build into, and you will play decks. You will take Dorinthia to Dawnblade Dorinthia when everyone's playing Hatchets to a top 16 at a Pro Tour. You'll take Zen in a slightly different form when people don't expect it. You'll come up with in partnership with your allies. Things like Time Skipper boots for Droma. These different looks, and I think that's something that really elevates you into that space. So yeah, that was my question for you. And I guess that motivation, like you say, it comes from within, right?
Yeah. Just speaking on that, like I think a lot of people follow because there's a lot of like, I'm a Riptide one trick content creator. I'm a whatever. I don't know if there is a Riptide one trick content creator. I'm sorry,
I'm
but
sure
like,
there is.
I just use that hero, but it's like that's a good building block for you. But like doing what they say isn't gospel. You should make your own decisions and use that as a building block instead of just following their philosophy for everything. Even just top decks. Like even the first place of calling,
Callable?
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you can use that as building blocks, but like you don't have to, nothing has to be gospel. Everyone has their own reasoning for things, and you don't have to copy. Believe in yourself.
Yeah, just have good. There's like a tipping point, I think, right, where it's like two lines on a curve, and it's like your ability of deck building skill. And then what coming down the other side is how much you should net deck, I think. I think if you're not a good deck, but if you don't understand why cards are in a deck or how cards interact together, as your knowledge increases on a curve, upwardly, if we take two lines on a curve, one goes upward and the other one coming down, is your probably need to net deck and to take things at, like you say, at gospel. But I'm definitely a big believer of taking all elements, right? Like I'm not afraid to jump into that purple Discord and see what people are brewing up, to have a little bit of a look, a little bit of a lurk. I'll look at the other people's ideas. I'm not proud. I'm not too proud.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like I remember I was playing blue. I don't know the name of cards. Tiger Incantation. It's the block 3 non-attack.
Yeah.
I got that idea from someone in our team Discord, James. He's just like a local Toronto player who's like friends with Dilks and Tarek and all that. He's friends of mine as well. But he just had this idea because I was playing Harmony of the Hunt Blue, and he's like, "Why not this one as well?" And I'm like, "I'll try it. I like this Harmony of the Hunt Blue." And that card was crazy. Yeah. So you can get motivated. You can get inspiration from everyone.
Yeah, agree. All right, well, as you say, if you want to get your Command and Cookout questions in so that I don't hog all the limelight like Nick says and be selfish, please do get your questions in for the Command and Cookout. I want to rip straight through into the main topic of the pod because I think we've got a little bit to chat about, and I'm excited. I've been playing some games this week. I guess it might flash back to my week in Flesh and Blood. I forgot to say, I've been playing some games this week because I am going to be traveling to Christchurch to play. So I won't be able to play for the next week and a half, so I wanted to make sure I got some games in. And you know what? I think this format is interesting. Up front, my thought is that the set doesn't have the same impact that some sets have had in the meta, immediate impact. But there's a lot to talk about and a lot to digest, I think. So I thought just quickly, Nick, you're one of the best placed people to talk about this. Where did we leave the last meta? Like, what were the best decks, do you think, in the last meta as we went through, obviously, banning the books, we went to Worlds, and then post-Worlds, we got the changes with CYB Blue being banned, and also with High Octane being banned. So, and then of course Kuala Lumpur, a few other events. What do you think as we exited the last format the best decks were?
I think Zen was the only ST deck that's for sure. Because after Worlds, Dio got banned, and so that matchup was unwinnable. I tested a bunch of Zen going into what I could not beat these Dio decks that our friends were brewing up. So I just last minute I got told the ultimatum: you can't beat this deck. Just play CYB Enigma the week before, and I did. So, but after that, Zen just clearly the best deck. Everyone everyone ended up playing what I played at Kuala Lumpur afterwards because it was really a dead format who's really testing that much, and then it just dominated all the battle hardens in America. That type of I'm gonna chase a tail for 7, end with a CNC, or always leave 2 floating, so you don't know whether I'm CNCing you or weakest linking you, or I'm just going to attack with a weapon. Yeah, that usually ended. That was the best strategy. And then I think it's slightly below that. It ended up just being like Viserai, Nu, Aurora in those camps where like they just had game into each other in their own way, but they were just slightly dogs into Zen. Nu less so, but I think a lot of people ended up figuring out the new matchup to be at least 50-50. So, and then you were bad into Enigma, which was also on the downtrend because a lot of people figured out that matchup with things like Aurora and Viserai, so ended up being a lot worse. Yeah,
I think Enigma's position coming out of Worlds was, I thought, I played it, I thought CYB Enigma was the best deck for Worlds, and I think coming out of that, losing blue CYB, I just don't, you could still play CYB, but I think the problem is that what everyone else was doing, it just doesn't really, you don't have quite enough life, so you had to adapt, and I think those decks that you adapted to, honestly, I think people did I look at Michael Fung, he won a calling on that ride that Tara came third, and I can't remember which calling that was. They both played Enigma. More proactive, right? More kind of trying to play value game. And I think that's where Enigma needed to be coming out of this format. But it just, when there's so many aggressive decks, you're just taking so many like 45 to 55 matchups and play something. I think 2 point right, Zen just was the best deck, Mystic deck for that sort of problem.
Yeah, for sure. And especially so with Enigma, I think people figured out with how to play that strategy where it's like, okay, you have no auras on the field, but I'm going to come in for 9 with Phantasmaclasm. Like, this is my math. Like, I am doing things. I have no auras, but this is 9 damage. And if they just block that out and then just like, all right, I'm just going to Arsenal pass. What are you going to do with 5 cards? You have 30 titanium baubles, you're probably playing 9 to 12 defense racks against me. So like, good luck with your 5-card hand. And then I'm going to set up for a 5-card hand. I think people like kind of got to that level where it's like, they don't have auras, so I'm just going to let them play with 5 cards. Trust me, if they go, okay, I'm going to pitch levels Chi, Maragai, it's like, okay, that's variance. It is what it is. But like, if you bleed out, then they're just going to beat you from their traverse anyway.
I think people already understood that at Worlds a little bit, and honestly, like I talked about this in the pod. I think I mentioned this to you, right? I felt like I played a really terrible list at Worlds, at day 1 of Worlds. Like I felt like basically I had gotten to the deck slightly over-engineered, and I changed like 16, 18 cards going into the calling on day 2. And I think, a card that was like standout for me was a card like Spheres of Surreality, because I think people just, they had adapted to that play style. And I think a card like that just means that, well, I just have this 3 block that also works with my 2 costs and, allows me to punish you for blocking the turn before. And if I ever... I'm going to do that on the off turns, and when I find my auras to set up, then great, right? So I agree. I think it's. I'm keen to talk about Enigma now, though, in this next format, which we can talk about. So, Zen, Viz, Nu, Aurora, bit of Enigma. That was kind of the previous format, right? As we headed headed towards the Hunted. I want to talk about what the Hunted is bringing us, and before we get into specifically decks, I think let's talk about cards for existing heroes, or just cards in general that are being printed into the set that have a potential impact or non-impact. And I thought let's just get some of the duds out of the way first, especially from the expansion slot. The Kite Hunter, you seen that card? A lot of them. The Kite Hunter, you seen that card?
Yeah, that one's honestly the coolest one, to be honest.
It's so cool.
It's not good, but
no,
it's cool.
It's not. Do I thought that card had 8 attack, and I was like, oh, this card is like cool. Like, this card has 8 attack. That's so good. Like, there's so many ways you can play this off Blood Rush Bellows, kind of more combo based. It does.
Yellow Swing Big. You really thought they were going to do Yellow Swing Big?
Well, it discards a card on offense,
no,
right?
You don't have any other cards.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I reread it, I was like, oh no, this card sucks. I have my note here is womp womp. Rolling Fissure, I think, is interesting though for Guardian into Enigma. Is this card like maybe something that's going to help it? No, doesn't help Guardian into Enigma.
No, I don't think it turns on Titan's Fist either. So like that's also like, oh jeez, that's rough. And then you have to pay 4 because if you're not playing Tunic into Enigma, then you can't CNC Pummel, which you're in the win condition really. And then it's just you're paying 4 to kill a Maragai. They've paid 4 to play the Maragai and then attack you. So they're up 8 value there anyway. So they don't care. It's just
Yeah, I actually think honestly we're going to talk about Guardian soon, but I think just play more pummels, honestly. If you want to play Guardian right now, just play Pummel Gamer. Sure. Retrace the Pass. Katsu still the worst ninja, or is Retrace the Pass saved Katsu?
It's very cool for sure. With needles legal, Katsu had game because you kind of always can hit with the needles because they're not. It's like, oh, you're Katsu, so you can just blow me out with your Retrace the Pass combo. But now there's no needles. Nah, useless.
All right, we'll move on. Dowson Runeblood. I'm a big, I've been a big Viserai fan over the years. I wish I could have played Viserai for Worlds, but honestly, the deck was way too inconsistent for me to play personally. I don't think this card fits in any of the current Viserai builds, and I'm concerned that honestly this card is just not that good.
I think it's very good on Mordred Tide turns because...
Oh yeah, sure.
So because you go Mordred Tide and then play 1 non-attack and then play that, even though you haven't played 3 non-attacks, because the Mordred Tide gives you +1 rune chant, now you have 3 and have go again, and then you make whatever amount of rune chance of that. So it's kind of cool for that, and maybe someone's going to experiment with that, but it's not going to be me.
Yeah, I just look at it and just go, I could just play anything else in the slot, honestly. I think that's the thing. Yeah. But there's people 9 drawn, 9 Rune Rager Swarm. It's like, okay, yeah, really, really deep pool of cards. Yeah. Well, the decks just look they look so simplified these days. Ring of Roses. I think cool card, but just not enough to take Verdance to where you want it to be.
Yeah, I don't even know if you played it in the deck, to
Oh,
be
wow.
honest. Yeah.
Damn. What if there's 3 of them? You'd play it, right? Because you'd build around them more.
Yeah, you could have it. But even then, like, against racing decks, you're not going to get 3 out anyway. Like, and against slow decks, you didn't care because you just kill them from 60. So was it doing anything for you in that case anyway? Like, yeah, it's yellow block 3, but so's Plow Wonder. I don't even know if Plow Wonder's that great, but that's a different conversation.
Warcry of Themis. I actually think this card is pretty good. I just don't know if Prism is playable is the problem. This is the, if you haven't seen this, this is the it pumps an angel for +4 attack. And you can also banish X cards, or you can discard it, banish X cards from Soul, and turn X cards face down in Banish Zone.
Oh, so you know me too well. You know I was going to say I have no idea what this card does.
Yeah, I know.
I knew that you knew, but nope.
No. I do actually think this card is good. I just don't think Prism's playable.
Your soul is precious. Your soul is so precious.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Is an Angel Pump really that great for you when Angelic Wrath is just so much better?
Yeah, so to clarify, so it's a 0 cost, it's 3 defense, it's yellow, and it says your next angel, it's a light illusion action, your next angel attack this turn gets +4 attack, go again. But it has an instant alternate effect, which is discard this, banish X cards from your soul, turn X target cards in a banish zone face down. To be fair, if Dagger Ninja is what like destroys you, then, you know, maybe you can make sure that they have no daggers, or potentially less daggers.
Banish zone face down. When are they getting to the banish zone?
Oh yeah, I totally thought this was graveyard. This is terrible.
If it was graveyard, then yeah, sure. But
I got really hyped up about this card. Never mind. This guy was playable.
You can on Chase the Tail when they do their thing, but they can play around that. And
they can play around
it anyway. Yeah. In the resolution. So
never mind. All right, move on then. Shelter. Let's talk about the other cards that aren't, I guess, pure expansion slots. So the expansion slot honestly feels a bit miserable in this set, unfortunately. Yeah. But some of the generics and some of the, I guess, legendaries and other cards which we will talk about. The 3 I want to talk about in particular: Shelter from the Storm.
It's very good. It's very, very good. I want to get into a rant about these instant effects now that they're printing in this game and how much I love them, because it's from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
You need, because of the power creep of the game, you need things that are able to start your turn and then follow up on the following turn, so you can get that like modality of it, and you can do multiple things. With cards like this, I actually found that people like Sync and Fate should be banned. I'm like, these cards like aren't even that great because they're not flexible in any way at all. Yeah. And they're bricks, and then therefore that reduces agency, and therefore that goes against a philosophy of like reducing variance and stuff like that, because that card is a variance card. Like, you draw it at the wrong time, and it's just complete brick card. They're bad against Runeblade, and this card is great against Runeblade because you just discard it, and then you can prevent 3, and then you can prevent 1, anything like that. It's just a great card. I love the effects. Even things like Reaper's Call that people don't even know what that does, where you just discard it and mark them. Just having like flexibility in your cards, because like you will IP on turns, your opponent will do setup turns. You want these cards that actually you can make use of all your cards in a turn, because there are decks now that rely on setup, like Viscerai playing Blessing of the Occult and all these things. And it's like, yeah, if I 1 card 0, just discarding this card, like at least I get a fresh card in my hand. And I like all these different instant effects.
I mean, I'm really big up on like the modality of these effects. I don't think people are like, this card is insane, it's the best defense reaction. I mean, I don't think this card is better than Sink Below. But I
think it is. But that's
fair. Okay.
Yeah.
What I like about this card is it has the modality, right? Like, it gives you an interesting card in your deck. And I think you can't keep printing very similar cards. Like, these cards need to have a feel. They need to have something that brings the want to play them in the game. And I do think you're in a position where they can print more 0 for 4 cost. I don't think that is 4 for 0. I think that is fine. And this one is at least interesting. And it does the discard for 3 prevention is good. But honestly, have you played much of this card? Like, how often do you find yourself using that alternate cost?
It depends on. That's the thing. It always depends on matchup.
Yeah,
like,
but it's not insane. It's not busted. Like, it's not like
no. But that's what I like. Like, that's what I was saying before. Like, flexibility in cards gives you more agency. So like, I do like that I have that option to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Speaking of agency, Dual Threat. What do you think of Dual Threat?
It's good. It was broken, but now it's not that good. I don't know. That's how I see it. Like, with Niels, it was insane because like the only effective way to use it now is like maybe Kasai. It's like, oh, it's a 0 for 6. Yeah, but like you're only doing it with Kadachi, which is below rate anyway. So like you're only kind of just going on rate, and then you have to build your deck in a certain way. So I don't see how it's worth it without needles in your deck.
So for those who haven't seen Dual Threat, it's the generic action yellow defense for 3. It's majestic. Says if you've attacked with a weapon this turn, the next attack action card you play this turn gets +3. If you've attacked with an attack action card this turn, your next weapon attack gets +3 this turn. So if you can, to your point, right, turn this into a 0 for 6, you probably have to attack with 2 Kodachis, to your point, right? Which is like, okay, is that value? And then you also have to found an attack. I do see it, but I think then you're looking at this card being more like a 0 for 4, 0 for 5 at yellow, which is good. It just has. I think people like this card is insane, and I agree this card was insane with needles. But when you look at this card in terms of its power level at yellow cost being more like a 4 or 5 with hoops to jump through, it feels more reasonable. I do think the card is good though. I do think the card is very good.
Yeah, even just reasonable where it's like, all right, attack with Kodachi. I will just play it now and then just attack with CNC for 9 or
yellow
whatever.
minimalism.
It's like, it's like, that's fine. Like, that's fine. But like, you have to build your deck around. Maybe you don't have to build your deck around.
Maybe
it,
don't.
But, like, maybe you don't. But like, I do. There are cool cards. I do like that it's a cool card because there's cards like Flex Claws where like, I'll play it for 5 and then banish a tiger and then I get to play my Dual Threat and it's like, sick. Like, I remember in my Needles deck, I was playing 3 Biting Breeze blue, 3 Biting Breeze red because it's like, this is sick. Like value, and I was
You build around it, but not with a massive cost to do so.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about shout out to LSS for bestowing Arsenal Pass with another bonkers legendary. Should we talk about quick dodge flexes?
Yeah.
You like this card? Or I feel like you might be someone who's like, temper it a little bit. The card's good, but it's not that good.
Yeah, it's good. I like these kinds of cards because it's very skill testing on when you get to use them. Like I think equipment cards are incredibly powerful now, and I love that. Yeah. Especially at like high levels of play where like you get that ability to make decisions on when you have to use these cards. Like, and what matchups are they even good in? Your opponent can play around it. Is it even good in these situations? When, like, I think we'll talk about like the best decks coming in, but I think like some of the top decks are going to be able to use this deck incredibly well, and some of the decks that aren't as good are going to fall to this card. So
or they're going to try and play it and not be able to use it effectively once their opponents once they find that their opponents actually know how to not play. I want to say play around quick dodge flex because often you don't. It's not that you don't care, but it's like if there's a spot where they use it and then they don't have it later on, you're kind of cheering, honestly. So like it's more to your point, right? The use of it. It's funny. Nick says that while he's wearing his Traverse the Universe hat. So I mean, I don't know. It's the classic Nick.
I'm wearing nothing.
Okay, let's talk about the new heroes and Hunter, just to get a general kind of temperature check on their potential impact on the format, how good they feel coming in, and all those good things. Why don't we start with the Draconic heroes and talk Syndra? What are your thoughts on Syndra? I guess mine were solid hero, I think. It's maybe probably is the best Draconic hero, I think. Better than Fi right now because of the format, but it's just okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you fold too hard to things like Assassin and Interaction.
Yeah.
I haven't played any of it because it just doesn't vibe with me, but I've played against it and I'm like, 1 Codex of Frailty kind of hoses you, and even it's just like, it feels rough. Even it's like, okay, I'm going to attack with my Assassin attack. It's like, I hate this. And then you draw D-React. Even if they have D-Reacts in the deck, they're just like, okay, well now your hand is like kind of bricky, and I don't know. I don't see it that well. I think people maybe are just building it a bit too, straightforward when there's something more to it. Like there's like there's like a combo element to it. But I think I haven't looked into it at all, but I think the generic, I'm just going to play my head jab deck. That's not getting you there.
Yeah, to me, I mean, it's pretty wild. We have 5 ninjas legal? 4. Wait, Ira, Zen, Syndra, Bang. Fi and Katsu. We have 5. I guess this is the third best, but honestly, maybe actually because Fi has a bit more resilience, maybe Fi is better. I don't know. Like I actually think it's close. But I think Zen and Ira are both better options right now from a ninja standpoint, which is fine. Not every hero has to come and have immediate impact, right? I think that's fine.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I guess what do you think of Fang?
I haven't really looked into him either, but I played against it a bunch, and again, it just seems people are super linear about it. I think like the coolest way of playing it is like, people don't know what these cards will do, but there's cards like Filari Stance, which says you can you set up monsters instead of just being like, my numbers are better than your numbers.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to get you there. Honestly, interaction is too important. A race face would hose you.
Yeah.
I think these setup turns of like, all right, I'm going to like block out, play a flurry stance. Or like maybe I'll make it draconic so I can keep my things around. And then next turn, you are going to get blasted.
Yeah.
I think that's like where I would look at playing this hero because these stances are very strong. Like there's a blue that gives all your thing +1. So if you combine the blue and the red one, yeah. And then there's the sharpened senses, which I mean, sharpened senses plus like if you go like, oh yeah, double sharpened senses on like the flurry turn, oh my god, you're going crazy.
Yeah, just for reference, these stances that Nick's talking about are they're kind of like the Fletch the Tails from Outsiders. They're not a cycle per se. Yeah. They all do something different, but they're an unofficial cycle, right? So you have Flurry Stance, which is the red one, which is a warrior action aura at rare, defense for 3, cost 0, go again. At the start of your turn, destroy this. Then you may attack with each dagger you control an additional time this turn. And Power Stance is the blue one, same cost and defense, go again. At the start of your turn, destroy this. Then your dagger attacks you +1 this turn. I massively agree with you. I think one of the potential, I actually think Fang could do well in Memphis or Christchurch if someone kind of finds a good list and works it out. Because I think one of the things about this format is that so far, a lot of the deck lists I'm seeing are trying, they're so mid-rangey. They're trying to play attack actions and defense reactions in the same shell and like sacrificing power, I think, in order for value. And I think a deck that just goes blah, 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 block, play out a couple of setup pieces, pass the turn back, and the opponent goes, well, I have 2 defense reactions in this hand, so I've IP1'd immediately. I can Arsenal the other one, and then come in for like 7. If I don't have a disruption piece, like a CNC or something, and the opponent's like, okay, well, here's my 7-card hand coming back at you, effectively.
Yeah, and Warriors want to play with hidden information. Like they don't want you to know what's coming, and like everyone plays face up, like into D reacts, where it's like, okay, well, lame. You know, it's like if I attack you for 1 and then I give go again, and then like they're holding a like D react, and you just go, yep, power stance, and they're just like, F word, like I hate this.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm not sure it's going to be powerful enough. Like it might just be a little bit too inconsistent in some ways, but I think it's really interesting. And if I had time, I mean, honestly, for London, like this might be something that I invest some time in and just see what the lay of the land is on Fang, because it has quite an interesting hero ability. I don't want to say powerful. It has an interesting hero ability that I think is like fairly good. And I do think that you can do some potentially ridiculous stuff, I think. But my concern is there might just not be enough cards. Like you might be like, I have this 50 card core that's really good, and I'm missing like 6 power cards and 4 enablers or something to like get this over the line. And that's what I'm kind of like.
Yeah, but I just see people now where it's like, yep, here are all my like 0 for 3 pump spells, and it's like, okay, that just trades with the card of the opponent. So, like, is that really integral to your strategy? No, like if your opponent's just trading, it's like, here's a red card in your deck that I'm just going to block with a 3-block blue. Like who cares? Like that's not a good trade.
You're trading a red for a blue. A lot of these cards, exactly. And that comes down to deck building, right? People just not building decks in the right way. And look, it's early days, right? It's early days, I think. But I do think, hey, if you're out there and you want to play Fang, my advice right now is, Nick's advice, right, is go and look at some of these power cards, your stances, take up your stance, and maybe look at what this deck can do when it's not trying to play like a bad Dorinthia deck, honestly. Think differently when it comes to something like Fang. And honestly, maybe I'm thinking too simplistically about something like Syndra. Maybe it's similar. Arachne, Marionette, now that we've done with our Draconic heroes, what do you think of Arachne?
This is a hero I've actually been playing. He's cool. I think he's super cool. He has a lot of options that are available to him. He can be aggressive. The only problem is I don't know how Enigma would go for you. Like,
I don't think
it could be rough. Yeah. So like, we'll get to our predictions eventually, but that's the one matchup where I'm like, that's sus. And then like the decks that play wax on, wax off, and then Viserai could be sus as well. But it's a blast to play, like for sure.
Yeah.
So I think it's just great work by LSS making this hero like enjoyable to play, unlike all the other Arachnes.
I guess if I can ask you one question about Arachne, it would be, how do you see the hero ability, and how do you approach the hero ability when it comes to being like marking and trying to transform? How do you approach that?
I think transforming is important. I think Trapdoor is just such a massive swing. So the more you can transform into Trapdoor, like the more likely you are to win the game. Like And the fact that the trapdoor gets a card that marks your opponent as well, so you can keep that up even if you hit them. Like, it's very. I like this hero a lot, especially because like you get to. It's so difficult to play turn cycles because you need to know what your hand does versus with the hero that you've rolled into. Like if you're like, oh man, I'm funnel web, that sucks because that one sucks really bad. You maybe you block out on this turn, like there's so many different like ways of approaching it, but I think you do want to transform as much as possible. So that's where I'm at with it.
For those audio listeners and those that might not be aware, Arachne Trapdoor is the Chaos Assassin demi-hero that says when you become this, you may search your deck for a card, banish it face down and shuffle. If it's a trap, you may play it until the start of your next turn. So yeah, I mean, pretty good ability on that one there. What about Slip Through the Cracks? Obviously, our additional bonus hero that we've got from this format looks very cool, looks very aggressive. One thing I caught my eye immediately is the problem with this being a symmetrical hero effect that the other assassins that you might be playing against get to take advantage of as well.
Yeah, that's an issue, but like because you're so I feel that you're a massive red line deck if you're playing this character because you need to abuse the go again thing. But then I'm just like, man, attack for 3, and they go block 3, and they do this for however like 20 turns. Fatigued, like your weapons, you're flicking your weapons because you kind of have to like get you'll take up the mantle off, and then Snag hoses you, and there's something to this character, but I think it's just not fleshed out at all yet. And I think playing like I'm just going to play a bunch of reacts and then D-reacts and all my red line stuff. It's like, okay, well, you're just going to have the same problem of like, I drew no stealth attack this turn. That sucks. But then there's the turns where it's like, I drew 4 stealth attacks, so that's rough. I hate this,
I think the reason, this is my take on this hero, is we're going to get to our prediction soon, but I think this was printed as a more accessible point to playing Assassin for those that potentially find it too daunting to play Assassin. That's honestly my view, I think, is that they've printed a hero that says, hey, you aren't sure about how to play Assassin, or you feel a bit intimidated by this class and all the things that it does with, even you look at something like Marionette, right? Like, do you even remember the 6 Chaos Agents, for instance, right? Hey, don't worry about that. Here's, you're new to the game or you're new to Assassin. Here's an Assassin deck that can play a lot more linear, a lot more simplistically, and go for it, right? But it's quite well, I didn't say it balanced, but it's it has a lot of susceptibility to weaknesses, I think, that's built in for that point of making sure that it's not just a really, it doesn't break the tenets of Assassin just being all of a sudden now the best aggressive deck or something. So
yeah, and I actually really like that point where it's like it's also a budget option. Like I don't need CNC or Weakest Link or whatever in my deck. I don't need Bonds of Agony. Like, I could just play a red line deck with Ravenous Rebels or Scar for Scars.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with like, Snatch. There's nothing wrong with these as like a budget option. And then like slowly, like you get fatigued. It's like, that's lame. What can I do to combat this? And like, I actually think it's a great beginner hero as well because it's so simple. It's super simple.
Yeah.
It just says you get go again. So like, I just want to play my stealth attacks, and then you learn about reactions and you learn about blocking and like deck damage and things like that. That's a super important trait as well. I won't discount that at all.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Memphis is this coming weekend. We've got Christchurch the following weekend, and we're fast. It's kind of odd because, we're actually still 2 months away from London, but we've obviously got a road to national season. There's lots happening. And I guess let's just tackle it head on as we head towards Memphis. And this is, of course, with us with a little bit of testing under our belt, with a first view of this Classic Constructor format without really a meta to go off right now. But if we were to think about, based on what we know so far, what we've looked at, what do we think the best decks are as we head into this week 1 of the format with our best sort of hat on?
Zen, Viserai, the standard. They have not nerfed. They only got buffed, I reckon, because a lot of the new decks are more red focused, and Viserai eats that alive. Everyone was like all about the Zen Needle deck that everyone thought they were a genius, but everyone knew that was a deck, and that's gone now. But now you can just play a nice standard Zen deck, and it still does its thing. Like, you're very good into aggressive decks. You're very good into Viserai, which is very good into like the most of the field. Quick Draw Fletchers, that helps bridge the gaps of other decks into Zen, but I don't know if it's enough.
No, yeah.
And Zen did get pools in its own right. So I think there's Zen and Vis are probably like the two outstanding decks that are probably going to be the two most represented.
Zen and Vis, sorry.
Yeah, Zen and Viserai, yeah.
What, did Viserai get anything?
Viserai got every other deck playing more reds in their deck, and therefore it just is very good at that kind of game plan.
Yeah.
Just high rolling you can't prevent all this damage, and Mordred Tide is hell of a card.
What a card. The games, I've said this, I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it 3 times, I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. The games where you draw Mordred Tide the games where you don't draw Mordred Tide, draw 1 Mordred Tide, draw 2 Mordred Tide, 3 Mordred Tide, exponentially, it's just, I want to come back to a question on Zen, but just quickly, up 6 and run, and I guess to a point, what's the other one card? Pick up the point. These are the retrieve mechanics. Up 6 and run is the effective buff. It's red. Your next dagger attack is +4 this turn, and you may retrieve. So pay 1 resource, return a dagger from your graveyard, or equip a dagger from your graveyard. And then pick up the point is the attack action 0. So it's a hit jab with retrieve, effectively. How impactful are these cards, and who's making them benefit out of them? Does this make Ira a contender as one of the best decks in the format?
That's a
even
hot
without
take.
Needle. Even without Needle.
Yep. I think Ira sucks.
Oh.
I think it's bad. It's so linear. People know at the top know how to play against it. Like especially against when they're I'm playing 20 defense reacts. I'm gonna get them so good, and it's okay, but what are you doing into Viserai? Nothing. Yeah. Right? Even Zen can just block you out, make you play with 5 cards, and Zen doesn't fatigue. Zen just cosmics you for 20 over and over again. So you're not doing much there. I don't think it's good into these other decks. It just doesn't work for me without Needle in there. It's just the same deck as it was. You flick knives your dagger. If you flick knives your dagger and then you don't draw a thing, one weapon is horrible.
So bad.
It is so much pain, and then it still has the same problem where it's oh, I drew 4 reds. Yep, great. That's great. I drew 4 blues. Nice.
Dude, that's my problem with Ira.
And then it's oh, you can block 12 with those hands. It's but they blocked you out. You've drawn 4 blues. What are you doing? You're not doing anything. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it at all. I think it has the same problems as it always did. It needed 1 needle. Even 2 Kodachis is horrible. And what's even worse is that you get hosed so hard by that all you got. That all you got on the second Kodachi. You could always play around that all you got with needles. Now, people don't even talk about hey, you lose a couple of damage. No, that all you got on the second Kodachi, hose. Are you going to flick it? Not flick it, flick knives it. Okay, now you only have 1 weapon. I hate this deck. I don't think it's good.
I actually agree. I think the blue and the red problem is massive for me, and that's what I don't like about Ira. I think one thing I will say is that from playing a little bit of Ira over the last few days, I think it's pretty easy to play around that you got, honestly. I think you're often just laying an attack action on the second one because you're usually playing 2 attack actions. I think the problem is when you have, to your point, you're well, I don't have 2 attack actions because instead I had an extra blue and a defense reaction that's doing nothing. Yep. I honestly think if you want to go out there and play Ira, just play it as an aggressive ninja deck.
You have to.
I don't think you should be playing a million D-Rex. I don't think they're good.
And then because you give up Enigma as well, and I wouldn't do that if I was playing this event.
Yeah. We'll talk about maybe that at the end as well. But I have played some Enigma versus Ira, and I think if people are going to play these more mid-range decks, it's really good for Enigma. So whereas they play these really aggressive Ira decks, I think it's quite tough. And you get the benefit of all these pickup sticks and all these things as well. You spoke about Zen getting new tools. Is that something you want to keep under your hat, or are you willing to say what you think Zen's been given?
Yep, sure. So we didn't talk about it in the thing, but I think the best card in this set, and the reason it's called, I don't know what it's called. Put into context. This pod's going to be released after the calling starts, so this is whatever. But this card, it's a blue, 0 cost. It's just a D-React that blocks 3.
Oh yeah, that card's so good.
You can only block cards with base 3 or less. This card is absurd in any Mystic Hero. Yeah. The whole format is basically 0 cost, race you to the finish line. Even in Enigma Mirrors, you can do it on a Spectral Shield, and it's not the worst deal at all. Good. Even against Victor, Titan's Fist is base 3. Yeah. So you can do it on a Titan's Fist, and a 3 value Transcend Enabler is absolutely absurd. It's basically the equivalent of having 2 chi in your hand. Yeah. And the fact that you get to arsenal it as well as a blue in a lot of decks, not even just chi decks. Like this card is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Like,
yeah, I agree. I was surprised. We did our limited review, and when I read this to my notes, I was like, "What the heck?"
Yeah,
they printed this card, and
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, "Is the game ready for this?" Like,
well, what I like about this card is that I think it is a card that will sometimes be good, sometimes be great, and sometimes be absolutely unplayable in the format. And I think that is, sideboard card at best, right, or a liability in your blue slot. And I think that's cool. I think that's a really cool thing to have in your game. So, yep, I'm
right now it's crazy. Like every deck now is just 3 base. It has 3 base in some way.
I think outside of the Mystic Heroes, though, like this card is, it's good because assassin and attack reactions are good right now, but it's not insane, right? Which I think is good.
Well, I just think a deck that doesn't play great blue, like a lot of decks don't have great blues right now, and I think it's by design because Ultimate Iceland is just dominated. And their blues were crazy good. But like this is a blue that just says, okay, cool, I can just arsenal this, whatever. Like I'm gonna get my equivalent value out of it. It's just a great blue in general, in my opinion.
I even kind of like they also printed this card Nip at the Heels, which is target attack with 3 or less base gets +1, and it defends for 3. It's like it's a lunging press for those decks that blocks for 3. I'm like, I even this kind of blue I'm down with,
Yeah, literally it is Iron Song response, but has no reprise, so there's no downside to it. So decent.
They're and they're printing Trot Along, which is the go again version of this exact same card. Like I'm here for it.
I don't even mind exposed.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't block, but like if you're a mark deck, like especially if you're like a Arachne Marionette or something, +1 to anything, CNC or anything, and then you mark them, and then you get the +1 and the go again off it doesn't block, so maybe it's not.
No, it's good, man. It's so good because you just pitch it. Like I don't know if you play 3 of these, but maybe you do because it's quite powerful. But like you're just like, okay, here's my thing. I pump it, I mark you, and it's like, sometimes you're just going to throw this and not even care about the hit so that you end marked on the turn.
Yeah.
And then other times, like it's a modality, right? Like it's a pump, but also it marks. Like you just,
card's sure.
Good. All right. I guess so. Your view, Zen, Vis, they're kind of the top 2 decks. Anything else in there, or do you think everything else is kind of a little bit below these 2?
I don't predict either of them will win the event, but they will be the most represented in the field.
You think Iru's pretty bad. What do you think of? Let's go new first. What do you think of new?
Okay.
Obviously, there's a lot of assassins coming in with this format. Where is new?
New is. I'm not a big new fan. I think CYB means like you're much worse into things like Zen. I actually think the Shelter from the Storm discard effect is so good into new.
It's really good.
Yeah, blocking the Beckoning Mistblade is just so good for you. Especially if they're not playing Vambrace or anything into you because you're just playing a normal deck. Like, especially because if they go, okay, I'll play Bonds of Agony. It's like, okay, but I got 2 prevention left because I stopped your Beckoning Mistblade. I got Snag. Good luck. Like, I'm not blocking, so I don't care. I think that card really hoses new, but people are going to play it anyway because people love Assassin. I think it's the most popular class.
Where do you see new? Playable, but maybe not the best thing to be doing right now.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Like Siren's Call's a frustrating card, but I don't think your Viscerai matchup is very good, and Aurora I don't think is great for you either.
No, it's not. Well, Pankaj says not.
Yeah, so meh. I'm not really high on new. Maybe you can spike some Zens or beat people who like aren't as experienced, but not for me.
What about Enigma? Let's just finish off the Mystic Heroes. I like Enigma. I think I still thought it was pretty good in the last one. I just thought people weren't building it particularly right for the meta. I will admit I don't think it was. I think Viz and Zen were the 2 best decks in the format. Probably Zen and then Viz. What about now? Where does Enigma stand now? Obviously gains quick dodge flexes, gains maybe an extra blue.
I think it's going to win the event. That's my pick. We'll spoil it now instead of getting into it later. This is my pick to take the whole event down. I think people are super like disrespecting Enigma as like its potential. Like it just hoses assassins now, like with the quick draw, the quick flexes and whatever.
Yeah.
And like as I said, the put in context, that card is a monster upgrade for Enigma. Just a blue playable because man, the titanium baubles in this deck were rough. And you just get to arsenal that thing, and you get 3 value out of a Transcend, which is how Enigma fell behind in matchups, like when you didn't have double chi. Quick draw Fletchers is massive, and like being able to protect Moraga. There's a card actually I like. It's very innocuous. It's an arm piece. It's new. It has Guardwell on it. When it blocks a weapon, it gets +1 defense.
Yeah,
it's just an arm piece that can block a breakpoint and then block another breakpoint on a. Yeah, it can block a breakpoint on an. I can either block 2 on a weapon, which is Zen's weapon, because like the whatever it's called, spectral shield creation, calming, whatever
gesture.
Who cares against Zen? Who cares? Like Zen
waves,
care. But this
waves, man, waves.
I guess, but like I never cared about waves. I just ate it. I always just ate stuff in general. But the fact that you can protect the Moragai through like, oh, okay, I got gauntlets, I got my arm piece now, because I can block. Well, even if I can block your tiger for 1 that's trying to threaten my thing with Shuko.
Yeah.
And then later on in the game, I can still block 1 on your weapon when I have a Moragai and I'm protecting with my flexes and stuff like that. And if you really want to protect Moragai, that and a tunic that stops. I think that card is pretty decent. But
or even you just straight up block up the weapon first, right? Just to get the 2 on it, right? On your point. Yeah,
because Stonewall Gauntlet doesn't do nothing because they play around it and they don't have Artivore anymore. So
yeah, no, I agree. Very good. Or even against some of the other ninjas, you just block up. They're like Kadachi for 2, and then they're Kadachi for 1 later on in the game or something. It's
I think you can only block for 2 the one time, but
you block the 1 the second time. So you block you block the Irid Kadachi the first time, and you just block the first Kadachi another time.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty reasonable. Or you block on a breakpoint, right? If you need to the first time. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I like that card as well. I think it's really interesting. Arachne Marionette. You've been playing a little bit of it. How good do you think this hero actually is?
I think it's solid. People who have been testing it more than me, probably going to break it much harder than I could, because I've been grinding it like people going to Memphis. I've been playing other stuff, but I think it's reasonable. I think if you can figure out the Vis matchup, which it might be tough. Maybe you got game. Zen is a bit of a house as well, so maybe it's more aggressive. So like I think it has have more proactive plans. So I think it has a lot more game into those decks, but we'll see what people come up with. I'm not going to rule it out as if it makes like 2 in top 8. I'm not surprised if people have like on a team have like figured out this deck is actually quite good.
Yeah. Aurora, I know you don't like it, but how good do you think it is? Do you think it's still a contender?
Yeah, I think it's good, because I think a lot of people are being like, "Yep, I'm playing 12 block 4 defense reacts," and they're like, "Exude confidence." Yeah, exude confidence. How you doing? And like, it's just how it is. But like, I think, although I do think Quick Draw Flexes is a massive nerf.
It's so good against Aurora,
especially when you already have a fridge in general through your other equipment slots. That it's kind of rough to get through a Channel Lightning Valley when you got the Quick Draw Flexes, because you can block the weapon and then 2 attacks off 1 card. So breakpoints don't really matter that much.
So the two heroes I want to talk about next. I think this meta is very interesting. I think a lot of people have, at least with Memphis, a lot of people for week 1 seem to be playing a lot of mid range, and I think that's just a symptom of like there's new defense reaction, Ira pickup sticks, all these things, right? Bit of uncertainty around maybe how good Enigma is. People I think have randomly forgotten about what Viscerai does, kind of, or people have so focused on the Viscerai decks we've seen over the last few weeks be these more aggressive Viscerai decks as opposed to maybe the setup decks. Victor, Jarl. I know you're not a Guardian fan necessarily as much as people might think you are with the Ultimate you've played in the past. I think Victor is actually in a reasonable position right now.
Okay. All right. I can see that. But the Victor problem is that it just doesn't have the Viscerai. Good luck. Like,
you can't. I don't think you can win the matchup.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I've got to go that other way. I don't think Enigma's good either. But I've from the people I've talked to, people think that Enigma's going to be on the downturn, which is why I think it's going to be go right up to the top tables.
Yeah.
People not respecting it.
Classic.
So, yeah. I don't think the Zen matchup is insane either. Like they can block you out.
Okay.
And they have triple cosmic if they wanted to. Like, it's good. It's very good into like these like hatchet Dory decks.
Yeah.
Where you just go, yep, I'm gold main estate.
Dude, that card's insane.
Monstrous card. And like nothing outvalues, all right, block trounce on your hatchet.
Yeah, of course.
Value. So
it's also I think you're so good against Ira. I think you're so good against Ira. I think, and also like I get what you're saying about the cosmic and the Zen in game. But also I think if I'm playing this deck right now, like I'm just playing ways to punch over the top damage. Like I'm probably just playing 5 to 6 pummel, honestly.
I play Snag into Guardian as Zen.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
He's ready
Especially
for it.
Jarl. With
Yeah,
their
but
felling of the crown and their
Jarl can...
nonsense. Yeah. Get out of here.
Quickly, I want to quick fire some heroes. Prism, we think, is pretty not playable, really.
Yeah. I don't like Prism.
Someone can prove us wrong. Azalea, I actually think, I know you're not a massive fan of Azalea, I think Azalea is a reasonable pick for this format. Just the fact that you are playing up against a lot of decks that I think are just wanting to go wide, and when you hit your good turns, you hit them, and yeah, I don't know. I think Azalea is pretty reasonable right now.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I just think it's so spiky. I don't think
it is.
I don't think you got to the top tables because like you built the perfect configuration of arrows. Like, I drew. Oh, I drew red in the ledger like 7 times in the first 3 rounds, and I'm 3-0. That was sick. So that's why you're like, it's like, oh, I'm in top 8 because I read in the ledger 5 times in the first 6 turns against all my opponents. Like, cool.
Is Florian a bit of a dark horse with the way people are building decks right now and playing, or do you just so you're in the Pankaj camp and just thinking it's pretty bad? I think it's
dog,
pretty poor, but
not good, not good. People people like that hero. It has no spike turns. It's all it does is like math and like you can never beat Viserai. It is rough. Yeah. It's so painful.
It's funny, interesting. It was an interesting deck, I think, at Worlds because people were struggling as Enigma into it. I think with the configurations people were playing, because it was just like, here's all this damage. I have Reaping Blade, and my damage is consistent, and then I'm gonna like just channel my heroic on these 3 times a game, whatever. But as soon as I played a different configuration in the calling, and I think I played it 2 or 3 times, and it honestly felt like a buy for Enigma. So I don't know.
Yeah. There you go.
Last one, dashes, IEs, IOs.
Nah.
No.
Fatigued.
High octane, man. Damn.
Fatigued. Yeah, fatigued no matter what. I don't know what the new card is, but it's like a sensor. Yeah. It's like a sensor for change Venomance or something. Yeah. And it's like, you can just play it from Arsenal, and it's like, oh, okay, so I can't call Sink Below or Shelter because it just does nothing. It's so
hand,
come on.
And Vigil Extraordinaire?
Nah.
Chamber
Dash. I control dash. I like with Viserais and Zen's like whacking you over and over again with an Enigma. Oh man, I don't know. I think LSS are kind of cowards sometimes, and they should have just made that null zone. You just can't play it in general. It's actually just Chains of Eminence. So I know you have Sink Below.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call Sink Below, and you can't play from your arsenal. Let's go.
Yeah. All right, I want to wrap up. If you were going to Memphis, Nick, what would you play?
Enigma. Because I think it's going to win, and I play to win, so I'd play the deck that I think is going to win.
I might, if I lived in the area, I might take a punt on Victor. I think people are right. I think randomly people aren't going to play a lot of Enigma. We saw it was on the downtrend. I think it will uptrend a little bit from the last few events, but maybe not enough. I do think that there's going to be a ton of Ninja at the event this weekend. I don't think Victor's going to win, to be clear.
Yeah, okay. But well, people are like hyped on Riptide, and that's just.
Tell you what, if I plop down my Victor and they flip over Riptide, I'm cheering.
Yeah. If you play Riptide in Memphis, you're on American. That's how I see it. I'm not gonna say more.
You've got a week and a half to go till Christchurch. Where's your head leaning for Christchurch then?
I got a couple of decks. One I won't say.
All right, that's fair.
But Enigma is my other choice, depending on what happens in Memphis. Then again, people have just gotten my source for Enigma, so like maybe I should have kept my mouth shut on
maybe
my
tactically
put into context. Yeah, maybe I am.
Just to put it into context.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've got to pack my cards today after we get off this call. I'm going to put in all my Mystic cards for Zen and Enigma.
Smart.
And Viz might sneak into my bag. That's probably about it, honestly.
Yeah, I think if you like, I actually think Zen's surprisingly hard, and I think Viz is like very straightforward.
It's
so
so easy to play. Yeah.
If you didn't like have time to test or anything, I think Viz is such a like. Yep. My Mordred Tides don't do this. My Mordred Tides are foil. My rest of my deck is non-foil, and I'm ready for the event. That's cool.
Dude, I feel like every Viserai player I play against has that little secret deck. I don't know.
Oh, I'm calling.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Any last words from you, Nick? I just want to say a massive thank you for joining us on the pod today. It's been great to have you on since, it's been about, I think, a year since we had you on last time. I actually think last time you won a calling, we had you on, and, you've done it again. So, hey, just win Christchurch and we'll get you back on.
Absolutely. Oh, that's what more motivation could I have for everyone out there to win a call and you get invited onto Arsenal Pass? Like, that is the honor of honors. That's the real prize, not the trophy, not the money, not the prize card.
Invite to Arsenal Pass
on the next episode of You're Listening to You. For sure.
Oh, we didn't do our tier list. We were going to do the tier list.
Oh, dude, it's the thing. Me and you bantering about nothing. No one cares. Tier list, though, astronomical views.
I know. Wow. We've run out of time for it. Damn, I was really looking forward to doing that tier list. But, I guess we just won't do it. So, thank you again, Nick. This has been episode 198 of Arsenal Pass. Until next week, we'll see you on the next episode.